Starting in Tov Reish Pei Tes in 1929, the Rebbe started keeping a diary of sorts where he would write things that happened with the Frierdiker Rebbe, as well as Chedushei Torah. These are known as the Reshimas. One of the most famous portions of the Reshimas is a fascinating Chativa Bifnei Atzma. It's a standalone thing. It's printed in a book like this called Reshimas Hamenorah. What happened basically here is as follows. It seems like there was a chassid in Poland by the last name of Shmotkin, and he had a shaila in Nigla about the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. What was the seder and how it was lit? What was the first candle? What was the second candle? There's different shittas, and it's not so clear. So he asked the Rebbe to get some clarity on this issue, and the Rebbe wrote a letter to him explaining. It seems that the Frierdiker Rebbe would send people who had these types of questions, would say to ask the Edom, and so he wrote. Knitted, the Frierdiker Rebbe saw the response or heard about the response, and it was his pilot. And so the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and we have the letter. The letter is from, I think, other time, Tov Reish Tzadik Tes, 1939, and the Rebbe was in France at the time. The Frierdiker Rebbe was in Warsaw, and the Frierdiker Rebbe writes that, can you please write up what you did to Rabbi Shmotkin, but it should be the whole thing with the ganze arichis, also al pi Kabbalah, Chassidus HaKlali, and Chassidus Chabad, the whole package. And the Rebbe started writing it, and then it stopped. The Rebbe didn't finish it. We don't know exactly why. Maybe it had to do with World War II, maybe not. The Rebbe didn't finish it. And it stayed like this. Some elements of the Reshimas, the Rebbe sheared later during the Nesius in Sichos would come out. For example, a lot of the stories that he heard from the Frierdiker Rebbe, which he wrote into the diary, he shared later by Fabrenim. People didn't know exactly what the source was, but later we found out it's from the Reshimas. Even some Torah ideas or later you have much more developed in Likutei Sichos or in the Sichos. But this is, I didn't look at everything, but from what I know, the material here didn't make it into Likutei Sichos. And the way it basically works here is that the Rebbe starts off going with the Nigla, Pashat understanding what's the Shitta, the Rambam, and all the different shittas and interpretation. First is pure Pashat Nigla, and going through the sources of Nigla, and then at the end it goes into the Menorah al Derech Hadrush. So it's all mostly based on the Menorah, and the second half is where he goes into like the lessons that we can learn in life from the different shittas. And what the Rebbe does is he gets. It's not. What happens is it's not such an easy limud, because you have to learn the machlokas, you have to understand what they're arguing about, and within the machlokas there's a second machlokas, and then all four shittas have Eiran, Avedas, and Shans. It's not the easiest type of limud. The reality is that there's, I don't know, in my experience it doesn't get learned. This hasn't get learned a lot. This week's parsha is Truma, and we're learning about the Menorah, we're learning about the Arden, and all the Kalim in the Mishkan. I figured it's a good time to give a little bit of a taste of what the full thing looks like. We're going to focus more on the drush at the end, rather than on the different shittas in the halacha. But rather than learning straight from the text, I decided to reorganize it, as you'll see, in the traditional way, in the way we do it here on Tuesday evening. Okay, so the starting point is the following machlokas in Menachos. The Gemara in Menachos has a discussion about how the kelim in the heichal were stationed. Tanu Rabbanan, steht in Breise. Mizrach u'mayrev hayu menachim. The concept, what it's talking about here is the Beis Hamikdash that Shlomo HaMelech built. Shlomo HaMelech didn't build one shulchan, he built 10. He didn't build one menorah, he built 10. That's how they were put into the heichal. So it says over here, Mizrach u'mayrev hayu menachim. They were from east to west. So what's that they were from east to west? I'm going to use a sefer. But here you have, this is the Beis Hamikdash, or the Mishkan. You come in from over here. This is Mizrach. The Kodesh HaKadoshim is over here. This is Ma'ariv. So east to west means that it was going this way. Not this way. This would be Sof and Darim. It was going this way. So all these shulchanois were like this. Okay.
What do you mean by 10? 10 lined up?
He made 10 tables. Why? Ich weiß nicht. Shlomo HaMelech made 10 tables. the Gemara discusses why I didn't bother to look into what the Chesed was.
They're lined up as they.
So it would seem that he had to make room. I don't know if they were lined this way or that way, but the Kodesh is the orientation was like this. Divrei Rebbe. This is Rebbe. The people are going to be very important. Rabbi Yehudah Anasi. This is the Shitta of Rabbi Yehudah Anasi. Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon Aimer. Then you have Elazar ben Shimon. This is the son of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, his son, the one who hid with him in the tent, in the cave. That's what Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon says. No. The tables were tzafan darim. That means like this. Okay? We're going to be saying the words Mizrach Ma'ariv and tzafan darim, this and like this. We're going to say it 100 times in the next hour. This is what it's all about. My time at the Rebbe. What's the reason for Rebbe who says it was like this? He says Gomer Menorah. It's because he derives it from the Menorah. Ma Menorah Mizrach Ma'ariv, just like the Menorah over here was Mizrach Ma'ariv in the same way. Avhani Nami Mizrach Ma'ariv. So that's why the Shulchan is daimah to the Menorah. So both of them are in this orientation, which means the candles you're lighting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? That is Mizrach Ma'ariv Hayu Munachim. Yeah. But Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, my timers, how come Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon holds that the Shulchan was in the other direction, like this? Gomar me'odin. He learns about the odin. Ma'odin tzafim v'darim, afani nami tzafim darim. What does that mean? In the Kodesh HaKadoshim you had the odin. The odin was like this. So because the odin was like this, so therefore he says the Shulchan matches that. Fine. Frek the Gemara, the Rebbe nami legaber ma'odin. So why doesn't Rebbe say the Shulchan? Rebbe says like this. Why don't he say like this, learning it from the odin? And for the Gemara, danin chutz mechutz vein danin chutz mifnim. We learn that the Shulchan was like this, similar to the Menorah, because it makes sense, they're in the same room. Don't tell me you learned this from here, this is a separate room, a different level in Kedusha, it's not the way to derive. One second. Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, who says it's like this, why? Because he derives it from the Aron. Why not say that the Menorah is this way? And for the Gemara, Amalach, he holds Menorah Gufat Savim Daranach. He holds the Menorah. It was like this. And so therefore, in summary, we just learned the Shtukal Gemara, and according to...
Wasn't like this?
There's a third one, the Mizveach, which is right when you come in. It's not going to be part of the discussion, like a segel, yeah. But we're not going to include that in the discussion. The Rebbe actually talks about the Avodah of the Mizbeach. Even though most is about the Menorah, he gets into a little bit about the Mizbeach, but that's not going to be our focus now. So according to Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, this is the orientation of Aron, Shulchan, Menorah. I don't know exactly what could be like this. I don't know. I'm not there. But the point is, you had an orientation like this. According to Rebbe, that's right. Okay, fine. Good. So Machlokes. The Rebbe learns that we do a character analysis of these two individuals, Rabbi Yehudah Anasi, Rebbe, and Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. And if we understand what types of people these were, what roles they played in Jewish life, what their values were, and what they advocated, then we can understand why they held this. That's where the Rebbe is going here. So the Rebbe writes like this. Here's our first selection from the Reshimas Hamenorah. So the Rebbe, B'gdei Yisrael Yeshnam Beis Sugim. There are two types of great Jews. They're both great, but they're great in different ways. First, you have Roshei Alpha Yisrael, the leaders of the people, Asher Yisrael, who carry along the Jews, Kasher Yisrael, like a nurse carries a baby, to give them all their needs, the smaller ones and the bigger ones, the chiefs, the riffraff. This is the Rebbe borrowing biblical language about Moshe Rabbeinu, the Nasi Ador, who takes care of everyone, who provides everything for everyone. That's one type of leader. Then you have a second type of leader, V'anoshim b'nei Aliyah. Then you have that Lashon of the b'nei Aliyah, the prodigies, the unique people. Asher Meshich Mamomayla Gavoyim Ekalam. They're not supporting the people; they're above the people. Silasam on their path, which is only for special people. They go up and they ascend in their own path. In other words, the elite. They're also Gdolei Yisrael. The elites are Gdolei Yisrael. But these are, they're not the norm. They're not part of the norm. Okay, they're very different from the norm. That's what makes them great. This is the difference between Rabbi and Elazar ben Shimon. And as you're going to see, it's going to upspiegel in how you understand the Caleb. So let's say Rebbe. What's Rebbe? Rebbe was the Nasi. What does that mean? The Rebbe was the Nasi. So two things. First of all, the Sanhedrin was the body, ultimately without a king. What was the office, the highest office, was the Rosh of the Sanhedrin. Rebbe was the Nasi, the Rosh of the Sanhedrin. So in that way, he was the leader of the Jewish people. In addition to that, as well known, he had warm relations with the Roman authorities who were occupying Israel at the time. And in that way, he was mamash, the Nasi Adar. For the elites, for everyone. The Rebbe is going to show Gemara. The Rebbe is going to quote. You see, Rebbe is there for everyone. Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon never had that office. He never was a Nasi. In fact, he was an elitist. You're going to see he separated himself from the people. Okay. So let's see the sources. So the Rebbe bring all these sources here. It's a Rambam, it's a Gemara. I only brought these sources if the Rebbe brings very big kitzer. Mamish and the Reshimas Hamenorah, the Rebbe elucidated in 3 words. And then in the bottom they made a footnote so that you understand what's happening. So that's why I put the source here on this thing. So the first thing, Beneged, Rabbi Yehudah Nasi, the Rebbe brings from the Akdama LeMishnah Torah. What else? Lama said Rabbi the Rambam in the Hakdama to Mishnah Torah wants to know why he wrote the Mishnah. Why not leave it Baal Peh the way it was before? And he writes, students were becoming less. New persecutions were coming. 2nd century, beginning of the 3rd century, the Common Era. The Romans, they're all over the place. At that time was the zenith, the height of their rulership. The Jews are rolling all over the places, going to the far ends of the earth. You needed to write down Torah Shabbat. I made the words here Biyad Kulam bold because I believe that's what the Rebbe wants to stress. There's the everybody. There's the inclusiveness. There's the chibur for biyad kula. They should be able to learn it quickly without forgetting it. Then the Rambam continues. Yoshav kol yomavu beis dinai the limed hamishna berabim for everyone. So not only for the Talmid Chachamim. Limed hamishna berabim. You see over here, Rebbe is thinking about the Jewish people as a whole, and he's thinking about everyone. He's writing something for everyone. He's teaching it for everyone. That's the first thing that Rebbe cites. Then the Rebbe cites this interesting Gemara from Baba Bassi. Steht in Gemara, Rebbe Pasach Oitzris B'Shnei Batzoyres. He opened treasures, meaning storehouses, in the years of a hunger. There was a hunger in Eretz Yisrael sometime in the Tkuf of Rabbi Yehudah Nasi. People needed food. He opened storehouses. Omar, he said, Yichnesu Bali Mikra. Whoever knows how to read Torah could come. If you're Bali Mishnah, you could come. Bali Gemara, you know Gemara, you come. And you ask, Gemara, the Gemara wasn't written yet. What's that Bali Gemara? Yeah? So what's the answer?
You all the pshat.
Gemara just means to learn.
Gemara is not a sefer. Gemara is a methodology. By the way, if you did the earlier class, if you remember about the Gemara, it's not Gemara, it was Talmud here. Mm-hmm. What's Talmud? Talmud is L'haven Dover Mitoich Dover. It's a methodology of learning. Mishnah also, Ladafke is a book. It's also, Mishnah means to repeat. It's a methodology of learning. And that is the Mesorah, succinct, short, repeat it, learn it Baal Peh. That's Mishnah. And then Gemara means the people who were expert at L'haven Dover Mitoich Dover. They could analyze the teaching and figure out, what are the implications of that. Balei Halacha, the Paskin, you come. Balei Agoda, if you know the Midrashim, you could come. The Rif, the regular people of the land, the people who don't know how to learn, they're not allowed to come to get food. Okay, now this is a little interesting where he's not giving the people food, where they're supposed to starve because it's actually interesting that this oitzris were not public oitzris. So our version of the Gemara, this I just happened because I became interested recently in the different girsois, and there's an easy way to check it up now. It's his own personal oitzris. It's his own personal thing, and you could make an argument that there wasn't enough for everyone anyway. This is not public food. The other versions of the Gemara say oitzroi or oitzrei. All of the manuscripts have it. The early prints of the Gemara, and this is a chiddush of the later matpisim where they dropped the things. I think that just changed the tone of it, given that it was his own personal thing. Anyway, so he says only those people. Rabbi ben Amram, who was a Rebbe, he had smicha, he has a name Rebbe, so obviously he was all of the above. The Nichnasin went in to get food. Amalai, and he said, Rebbe Parnaseini, Rebbe, give me food. Amalai, Beni, he didn't recognize him. He said, my son, Karisa, do you know how to read Torah? Amalai Lav, no. Shanisa, do you know how to do Mishnah? Amalai Lav. Inke Bamar Farnasecha, so how can I support you? Amalai Parnaseni Kekela V'choidav, like a dog and a raven. In other words, why should I be any worse than give me food? So Parnasei he gave him. Basar the Nafik, after this boy left, or this man left, Yosef Rebbe become a Sarva Amar, so Rebbe was upset, and he said, Oili Shanasati Pitul Amaretz. In other words, I didn't make the right call. I gave my food to Anam Amaretz. His emotions, it seems, got the better of him. Really, intellectually, he knew he shouldn't give. His Mayad Rachmanis, and now he had Charata. Amar Lafan of Reb Shimon bar Rebbe. So Reb Shimon, he had a son named Shimon. Yes, there's a lot of Shimons that are going on at this time. Generally speaking, from the Chashmonaim and onward, because one of the boys was Shimon, you had a lot of Shimons in the end of the Bayis Sheni and thereafter. So, Amar Lafan of Reb Shimon bar Rebbe. So Reb Shimon says, Shema Yenison ben Amar Talmidachahu, Sheiner Leitzel Hanam, Shekvay Torah Miyama. Maybe it's your Talmud. And he's hiding because he doesn't want his Torah to get him food. You got this thing. The Gdei Yisrael didn't want that they're to make money off their Torah. Chas v'shalom is big shit. This machlekes, the Rambam, whatever. So this is one of those sources. He doesn't want to say, oh, because I learned Torah, therefore I'm getting food. Then he turns his Torah becomes a tool for parnassa. He doesn't want his Torah to turn into a tool. Maybe that's what happened. But Ashkach, they investigated. They found that's taka him. Rebbe said, Yichnusu Akail. Everyone should come. Everyone could come get food. When he saw that, he said, everyone can come get food. Rebbe letame, what was Rebbe thinking lechatchila, not giving food to Hamaratzim? To Rebbe, because Rebbe held, ein punan is bala elam ela b'shul ha'me'oretz. So hunger only happened because of them. So if the hunger happened because of them, so therefore, they don't deserve to have the food. The Rebbe, as much as this story sounds like it's elitist, sounds like, no, Hamaratzim are not getting food. But the Rebbe learned here, for two reasons, that no, it's not. At the Fedish we see here, Rebbe providing for all. How do we see Rebbe providing for all? First of all, at the end of the day, de facto, he gave everyone. Number one. Number two, the reason he didn't lechatchila is not because he doesn't want, it's because of a technicality. That's the way the Rebbe learns. It's because of technicality. Because in this case, this particular hunger, is a result of the Amei Aratzim, so therefore I'm not going to provide for you. But other than that factor, I would have. So therefore, what do you see from here? Rebbe provides for all. This is Rebbe's Madaik in number 5. Reshimas Hamenorah Peivav. The Rebbe Ayanasi Yisrael, V'dog L'chol Tzarcheya. He's worried about for all the people. At the end of the day, at the end of the story, he let everyone in. Even in the beginning, he didn't say they shouldn't come in. The only reason because of that technicality. These are the two proof texts that the Rebbe brings to demonstrate the character of Rebbe. Now, on the other hand, you have Rebbe Elazar ben Shimon, who has the other view. So we're going to see over here elements of him being separated from the people, not caring about the people, demanding a very high level, that type of much more of a Shammai style approach. So here are the sources that the Rebbe brings in this regard. First up is from Bava Metzia, Daf Pei Dalid, that says as follows. Shalach Rebbe ledaber v'ishtoi. Rebbe sent a messenger to speak to the wife of Rebbe Elazar ben Shimon. Rebbe Elazar ben Shimon had passed away, and now his wife's an almana. Rebbe was thinking, remember, at this time, a person could be married to more than one wife. So maybe Rebbe presumably was married, but maybe he thought that he should marry Rebbe Elazar ben Shimon's wife. So she responded back, a vessel that was used by holiness, my husband should be used by you. That's a strong language to use to Rebbe. That's the version. She's saying on herself that, yeah. Yeah. Okay, it's a metaphor, right? Maybe we shouldn't get carried away with the metaphor, but yeah. All right, Tamon Omri, this is the version the way it was said in Bava, the story. But Tamon Darton, in Eretz Yisrael, they have a different version of what she sent back. But Asar the Mari Beisa Tala Zaina, in the place where the master of the home hangs his sword. So kulba raya kul say tla. Kulba is like a plane. Raya a shepherd. Kul say is like this basket. Tla is going to hang. In other words, where the puttis puts his rifle, the little cheap shepherd is going to come and put his little basket. This pasnish. This is what she responds to Rebbe. Shalach la. So he responds back, Nehi de b'teira gadol mimeni. True, in Torah he was greater than me. Avol b'maisim tovim he gadol mimeni. Maisim tovim he's not better than me. I'm pretty good when it comes to maisim tovim. If that is special. Oh, me gadol mimeni. Yeah, is he better than me?
No.
Okay. Who's bigger than me? No, I'm not sure actually. Not true. It could be Tziden. Yeah, I don't think. I'm not sure. That's a good question. How do you read that? I think, I don't know. Shalchalei, she wrote back, about Torah, if he's greater than Yehudah, I don't have an opinion on that. But Maisim Yadana, Maisim, I know that he's greater than Yehudah. Kabel, Alei, Yisurei, he took on Yisurim, the Gemara over there is talking about this. Okay, what's the bottom line here? The bottom line is Rebbe is admitting that when it comes to Torah, Reb Shimon ben Elazar is top. Rebbe, we know, is a great scholar. He's the author of the Mishnah. For him to say and for him to admit that Reb Shimon ben Elazar was greater than him in Torah is obviously telling us that we're dealing here with a person whose character is not the norm. That's number one. Number two, Gemara in Sukkah says as follows. It's quoted in Tanya. It's a famous passage. Amar Chizka Rabbi Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Roisi b'nei Aliyah. I've seen the elites. They mu'atin. There are very few of them. Im alafein, if there's 1,000, ani uvni mehan, then myself and my son are included. Im me'ahem, if there's 100, same thing. Ani uvni mehan. Im shnayim hein, ani uvni hein. It almost sounds like the 1,000 and the 100 is there to just give you the punch for the last two. The nekuda is im shnayim hein, ani uvni hein. But if you just say it that, no, it sounds better. It's like 1,000, 100, and then ad kadei kach. These two. So now all of a sudden we're dealing with a serious Bnei Aliyah person, Reb Shimon, Reb Elazar ben Reb Shimon. Which brings us to the next Gemara. Here we're going to see in this passage we're going to see that Elazar ben Reb Shimon had no patience for people who were misbehaving. Pasha, no, you're misbehaving. You didn't deserve to live. You lost your right to life if you're misbehaving. Where do you see that? Reb Elazar ben Reb Shimon ashkach lahu pahar guna. He found, or Elazar ben Shimon found a certain person his office was titled Parguna, and his job was to catch the thieves and to hand them over to the Romans. Amalei, so Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon said, how do you know? Maybe when the people that you're chapping, based on whatever method you are using, maybe you're capturing righteous people that are completely innocent, right? Any judicial system, by definition, catches some righteous people. It's one of the big problems of any justice system. There is inevitably going to be some people who are innocent and they're going to be put away. They're going to be killed, whatever it is. So this is the problem. Rabbi Shimon is asking him, how do you navigate this dilemma? So Amar Leo Maya, what am I supposed to do? You want me to drop the job? Herman of the Malku. It's the emperor's decree. I need to do this job. It's not a choice. I was drafted into this. This was the position I was given. So what do you want me to do? Amar, so Elazar ben Shimon said, I'll show you how to do an FBI investigation. This is how it works. You go on the 4th hour of the day, right at the time of Seizman Tefillah, you go to the chanusa, the shop. You see people there drinking wine. And if he has a cup in his hand, now you know you have a problem. At the 4th hour of the day, falling asleep with a cup of wine in your hand, now it's very suspicious. Except for, surely, Lord, you need to ask. If he's a rabbinic scholar, and he's sleeping, it's because he got up early, he went to the Daf Yomi Shir at 5 o'clock, and now he's already 4 hours in, he davened shachas, whatever, and now he went for a nice cup of wine. That's why he's falling asleep. He's not a criminal. Don't arrest him. If he's a poil who wakes up at dawn to work in a field or whatever, he woke up early that day to do his work also, whatever. And then he gives one other thing that was too technical, so I took it out. And if he's not any of these, then because he's falling asleep in the bar 4 hours into the day, then you know, Ganvahu Tafse, he's a Ganav, you should for sure take him away. Alright? Looks like he was having a lot of success. All of a sudden, this police officer is bringing in a lot of people. So the word went up the chain. Amru, and they said the famous Talmudic line, Krana, the Irgasa iu lehevi peravanka. The person who dictated the letter, he's the one who should deliver it. And so therefore, Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, the great scholar, the elitist scholar, the one who Rebbe says there's no one like him, the Bnei Aliyah, he gets drafted into the police force. Now we know at the time there was a draft. Romans would force you into different types of services. There was tax collectors, there was military, there was police, there was judges. There were many different things that Jews could be forced into, and it looks like he was brought into he now got into the business of chopping ganov. This is what he's doing. Another great Tana of that generation of Shul ben Karcha sends a message to Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, and he says, Choymetz ben Yayin. That is a great expression. Vinegar, the son of wine, meaning your father was. Gedenk the Tate. The Tate is going Epis. It was a garnish. Chaymitz ben Yayin. That's what he's saying. How long is this going on? You're giving the Jewish people, the Ganofim was catching reason. You're giving over Jews to getting killed. The Romans, they killed them. Shalach lei, what's his answer going to be? He could have answered, I was forced into this. No, he answers, I am taking the thorns out of the vineyard. In other words, I'm enjoying this. This is the right work. This is the good work. I'm fighting the good fight. Shalach lei. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha responded back with another very famous line: Yavai bala kerem v'yechales kotzov. Let the winter come and take the thorns out. In other words, this is not your business. You don't need to do this type of thing. Bottom line is that Rebbe brings this. The Rebbe presents this together with the other two pieces of data that we have so far. Great, the biggest Talmud Chacham, Bnei Aliyah, and no patience for the riffraff, no patience for the Ganovim. If you're stealing, you're not living a life that's a Torah, a mitzvah, ethical life, you don't really have business being alive in his perception.
Bring the story of coming out of the cave. He came out of the cave.
The Rebbe brings that next. That's the next one. I reorganize. Yeah. Then the Rebbe goes like this. Forget, before you get to coming out of the cave, the Rebbe says in 9, you see how much of a parush he was. He went into the cave for 13 years. What's the chiddush? He didn't need to hide. His father needed to hide. So his father, in Indian Geretz could say, wasn't on a level of being in a cave for 13 years. Never then. He didn't have a choice. He had to be there. His mother sent him there, so he was there. He's there by choice. The only one who's there by choice is Rabbi Shimon. The only one in history who could say that he lived in a cave with no clothes for 13 years, and it was by choice, learning Torah the entire time is Rabbi Elazar and Shimon. So that also goes to show how much of what type of person we're talking about. And then the Rebbe brings... then the Rebbe brings a destroying thing. Here's at the Gemara number 10, where it says when they came out, I'll just summarize outside what it says here. They saw people who were plowing and planting, and they said, Manichin chaya oilam ba'iskim chaya shah. It actually says Omar. It's really interesting. I didn't check the different Gersois here. But it says Omar. He said. So who's the one who said? Is it Reb Shimon bar Yochai or is it his son? Because they're both of them coming out together. Then it says, they looked and they created this colossal ayin hara of like just destroying things with their eyes. Okay, I said I'm not reading it inside. Anyway, they have to go back into the cave and they come out. Now what happens when they come out? Go to the next column. Here you have a massive Kol Heichadav Machi, Rabbi Elazar have a massive Shimon. Even after the 13th year, even after realizing round one that they weren't good, there wasn't Beseder. David sure doesn't want to destroy. Rabbi Elazar is still destroying. Rabbi Shimon, the one who's older, the father, he's the one who's rectifying, who's fixing. Only me and you. In other words, Rabbi Elazar Shimon doesn't get it. Rabbi Shimon gets it. Elazar Shimon doesn't get it. Now, in this Gemara, they said, what's this business of Manichin Chaya Olam and Torah to be Oiskim V'Chaya Shah? Rashi says, well, okay, how are you going to eat? Rashi asks, how are you going to eat? So Rashi, in 11, Oiskim V'Chaya Shah, the Goyim are going to work for you. Because God is going to give out food to the people who follow Him. I think what Rashi means is, if you're Oisei Detzayna, the Eibusher is going to make that Goyim are going to do the work for you, and so you can sit and learn Torah all day. Where's Rashi getting that from? The Gemara and Brachas. This is the last piece of this part of the analysis.
He also just lived like that for 13 years.
Yeah. So here's the Gemara. It's a fascinating Gemara. So let's read number 12. Tana Rabbanan, a Braisa. Vasafta deganecha. It says in Vahayim Shemaya, you should gather your grain. Frechtig the Shaila. Ma Talmud Loimer. What does the Torah need to tell you to gather your grain? You do that because you want to do it. You don't. Why is the Torah telling you that you should? So B'Pashas, it's not that you should gather your grain. It's and you will gather your grain. It's a bracha from the Eibusher if you listen. Okay, but we're on a drash level right now. So the answer is because it says in Yeshua, Torah should always be on your lips. You can think that it's literal. Talmud Loimer, therefore it says that you should gather your grain, which means you should be normal. You should act in the way of the world. You should have a job. This is what Rabbi Shmuel said. Shimon ben Yochai Omer, no. Having a job, the tarnish. Look what he says. If you're going to plow during plow seasons, and sow during the planting season, and then harvest, I'm not going to pretend like I know all these things. And you wait for the wind to do the winnowing. So, this is a famous line. What's the time of Torah? You're busy all year, basically, if you're following the agricultural cycles. Okay, so you shouldn't work. So what's the solution? If we're doing the right thing, other people are going to do it. Like it says, other people are going to get up and they're going to be the shepherds for your sheep. That's when malachta nasa de'as, and then you have to do your work. That's where it tells us. It's a pel. Why? What does the pasuk say? Right. And what does the pasuk say? V'hoya im shamaya tishmu. Then you're going to have wasafta deganecha. Okay, all the mafarshim answer shy. It's not our topic today. Okay, v'loyoy, not only you're going to have to work yourself, and you're going to have to work for other people. You're going to be slaves for your enemy. Okay, you have a machloikas. Tanoim. Two views. Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai discussing this. The same school. They lived in the same school. This is Rabbi Shimon is a Talmud there. Rabbi Shmuel, this is the one who argues often with Rabbi Kiva. And Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is a Talmud of Rabbi Kiva. It's that generation. What's the argument you see here? One is basically asking for a miraculous type of mixed existence and says it's shaykh, it's possible. We just need to try. And if we do this, then he'll take care of everything. And you really don't need to work. And Rabbi Shmuel says, Nishazai. Okay, Omar Rabbi, do we get a psak from Amaroyim? Harbe also Rabbi Shmuel, also biyadan. Many perfect people try doing Rabbi Shmuel's model, which is what? A job? Mit. Obviously, lo yamu shefer zamipicha. In addition, but you're having a job. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. A lot of people try like Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. The loy also biyadan. It didn't work. So in other words, we did a trial. We wanted to see, is it going to work? It didn't work. Abai is telling us that the way to go is Rabbi Shmuel's model, and in one of the sikhs, the Rebbe spoke about this, the Rebbe said, throughout Jewish history, the reality is that the vast majority of Jews in all generations, no matter where they lived, had to follow Rabbi Shmuel and not Rabbi Shimon. And therefore it must be that there's a tachlis, there's a kavana in Rabbi Shmuel's model that's not achieved by Rabbi Shimon's model, but that's also not so much our discussion right now. What do you see from this Gemara? The Rebbe brings this Gemara too in this conversation. Although Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon is not mentioned here, but we know he's his father on steroids. Where do you see that from? You see that from the last Gemara, right? So there's no doubt that he says everything here, maybe even more extreme. So therefore, we could definitely throw this into the mix and just paint a picture, a bio, a profile of Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, and you put this here, and who do the masses follow? The Harbe? Rebbe is concerned about the Harbe. The Harbe doesn't work, according to Rabbi Shimon. But you know something? He may say, I don't care about the Harbe. Because that's not his avodah in life, wasn't to care about the Harbe, as we're going to see. He was an elitist. He wanted to find the Iluyim, and he wanted to raise those Iluyim up, and that was basically his avodah in life. It didn't reflect the reality for the Harbe. That's Rabbi Yehudah Nasi's job. Nasi b'Yisrael thinks about everyone, thinks about the big picture, and these are the two differences that we had. So in summary, Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon is a very high level, very demanding, demands that of the few others who could maybe achieve it, and he wants them to be head and shoulders above everybody else. That's the type of person that he is. That's the type of yeshiva he ran. Rabbi Yehudah Nasi is the person who cares about all Jews, meeting them where they are, obviously to raise them up, but each one, lefi shiurei dilei. Now we're going to see, the Rebbe is going to say that this all comes back to the forks that are here, and I don't want to do it on the sefer. Now we're just going to do it on the table, like this. That what? Sorry. So what did we see before? We saw machlokas. Everyone agrees the Aron is like this in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The shaila is what's with the Shulchan and the Menorah Mizbeach. We're not talking about right now. And we had Rebbe saying that they go like this. Rebbe, the person who's saying, I'm for everyone. Big tent. That's the political word. A big tent party. Everyone. So if you're everyone, your Menorah and your Shulchan are looking like this. If you're Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, you're for the elite, your menorah and your shulchan are going to look like. So let's see how the Rebbe develops this idea. Go to 13. When it comes to serving the Eibishter, there are two general categories. There's avodas hamoyach v'aseichel, and there's avodas halev v'haregesh. There's brains and there's hearts. Okay. V'chilukam, what's the difference? Avodas hamoyach u'b'moicha v'sichler. Brains means you're using your seichel, intellect. Uv'meila, as a result, lav kol echad mesugo la'avoda zu al tachlisa. Not everyone, when it comes to serving God with brains, not everyone is able to do it al tachlisa. Al tachlisa is an important word here. Everyone could do it a little. But to say, I did it zum zach, not everyone could say when it comes to brains, I did it zum zach. Asher b'mixas a little, everyone's chayiv in using their brain for God. At the end of the day, you're a human being, and a human being has seichel. You got to use it. And what does this mean in daily life? Learning nigla and learning nister. We said before, everyone is obligated in learning Torah. Some people, their mind isn't just ready. They're not prepared. And the Rebbe then quotes a medrash, which is a little depressing, and it says that 1,000 people come to learn mikra. From them, I don't remember the numbers, but from them it says, Chamesh Meyos go on to learn Gemara. And from the Chamesh Meyos to learn Gemara, then it's 100. And then to Hoyrah, it's Echad Yoysalayra. From the initial pool of 1,000, you lost every stage, you lose some. The one who comes out and actually doing Hara is only one. What do you see from here? You see that when it comes to Avodas Hamoyach, it's not for everyone. Everyone has a chiyuv to learn, but to say Tachlisa, that's not for everyone. On the other hand, you have, the Rebbe continues, Avodas Halev Haregesh. You have serving God with your heart, emotions. Here, Kol Echad Ve'echad Shayach Lazeh. Everyone. What about a brainy person? Doesn't matter. Every single person is shaykh to have an emotional relationship with God. To use it in basic terms. Ella, shein demes elazar. Never then, there's going to be a difference. We're not going to have the same emotional relationship with God. You may have an emotional connection that's more based in one feeling, and I may have it in another feeling, but everyone could do it. The Rebbe doesn't say it. I think he means atachlisa. What you do, it could be you're doing ava. It's tachlisa. Doesn't mean it's the highest level of ava, but what you're doing is a full thing, is a full madrega, is a full inyan. You have many different chilukim, and the Rebbe here brings 3 Rambams. Briefly, you have 3 Rambams about Ava and Yira. And if you look, each time the Rambam discusses it differently. So 2 times it's when you say the Torah, 1 time it's Hilchos Tshuva, and so here you see, then in Ava and Yira you have different levels. Generally speaking, when it comes to an emotional connection with God, it breaks down into 7 categories. As it says in different Svarim, and the Rebbe says, where you have this too. 7 categories. The idea is that everyone has to figure out what his nature is, what is his teva, what is his inclination, what is his emotional disposition, and based on that, he develops an emotional connection with the Eibishter. And he brings the Gemara in Shabbos that we had a few weeks ago when we were talking about horoscopes. If you're born under Mars, you're going to be a spiller of blood. Came Rav Ashi and said, which is a makiv dam, you may be a blood letter, iganva, a thief, tabcha, a butcher, or moyala, a moyal. Why is the Rebbe bringing this here? Because you see, this is obviously in an astrological context, which is not our point here, but the point, the person is created with a certain teva. And here it's being framed as a teva of Ashidama. Your job is to figure out what your teva is, and then drive that toward an emotional relationship with the Eibishter that is not going to be as intense as the guy next to you, and it's not going to be b'chlal the same midah. But you could do it, and we could say when you're doing it, you're in the major leagues. You're in the major leagues. It's not like when someone who's not shaykh to Torah, he also has to learn a little Torah. Okay. So there, he's learning it, but it's not tachlisa. You can do it. Everyone does a little. It's not tachlisa. It's not done tzumzach. Emotional connection. Everyone could do tzumzach. So that is one difference. Then the Rebbe goes on to say there's another big difference between Torah and seichel and midas. The first difference we just said is could everyone do the job? That's the first difference we said. The second is azoy. The Gemara says in Brachis, the Tanya, it says in the pasuk, tell your children, and then the next pasuk it says the day that you stood in Chodev. What do you mean you stood? But you weren't there. The Gemara there darshans, it's as if you stood just like originally the Jews were there. They had Ema and Yira, which sounds like it means the same thing. Reses is shivering or shaking or shuckling. Uvizeya is sweating. So too that needs to happen. That needs to happen later. What do you see from here? Is there chiluke madregas when it comes to Torah? Is there different levels when it comes to Seichel? Yeah, of course there is. One person understands more, one person understands less. But the Rebbe is going to make an argument and say, but what's Torah all about? Torah all about is not about the intellect. When a person learns Torah, it's not about the Seichel. What is it about? It's about the experience. The Matan Torah experience. Malahalon. That's what it's all about. The Seichel is just the software that kind of gets you into the program. But the Nakuda is to experience Matan Torah. Any Yid who learns Torah, you're learning the Tur, you're learning Kisvei Arizal, you're a genius, you're less than a genius. Doesn't matter. All of you are really on the same level because you're experiencing Matan Torah. Seichel is different. Who cares? The Seichel is secondary to the Matan Torah experience. You can already see where this is going. The Rebbe wants to make an argument that when it comes to Chachma, Seichel, it's one level. There's no chilukim. It's one level. It's only for the elites. Okay? It's only for the elites. And within these elites, it's all one level. There's different Havanas. It's not about the Havana. So it's only for the elites, and it's one experience. The Ma'ala Halam, Be'ema, Yiru, V'Reshes, V'Zeya is one thing. Shenka, when it comes to emotions, here, number one, it's shaykh to everyone. And number two, the Rebbe just said before, there's very different ones. Am Ava, Yur Yira. And then also levels. You have levels. Some people are on a higher level, some people are on a lower level. Here you have differentiation. It's much more pronounced here. And the Rebbe brings the following Gemara in Chulin to demonstrate this. In the name of Rabbi Yechanan, Gadol Shenamar by Moshe v'Aaron, it says better, bigger, greater by Moshe and Aaron. Yosema Shenamar by Avram. Why? By Avram it says Anochi Afer v'Ever. What was his level of humility? I'm dust and ash. Ilu b'Moshe v'Aaron siv v'Nachnu. What are we? Not even dust and ash. So what do you see? They're both within the same ballpark of humility, but one is on the level of dust and ash, and the other one's on the level of Ich bin garnish. So you see difference. When it comes to Midas, you see that there's different levels. And these are the two things that we need to keep in mind as we go forward. Seichel means it's only for some. Midas means it's for all. Seichel means there's one thing happening, you're experiencing Matan Torah. Midas means there's a whole bunch of different stuff going on and different levels, higher and lower, and all those types of things. And based on that, the Rebbe is going to come back to the positioning of the two different shittas and how you position the menorah. What's the menorah? Put the Arin aside over here. We'll come back to that later. Actually, we'll just say now. Everyone pretty much agrees that the Arin is Torah. The Arin is Torah. We'll come back to that. Shaila is, what's the menorah? We have the shulchan. So the Rebbe says about the shulchan, Benigel the shulchan shalav lachal upon him. That's the Reshimas Hamenorah b'kuf v'chumris elam shuruk nisuay rameres hagashmi is hech menachas. What's happening here? Everyone agrees. What's the shulchan? The shulchan is eating food. What's that? That's our physical lives. How you serve God with the physical things that you're doing. Your job, your hobbies, your food, your sleeping, all those things. That's the shulchan. What's the menorah? Ruchnius. Okay. What's ruchnius? What ruchnius belongs in the heichal? So there's two possibilities. One possibility is midas, or one possibility is seichel, right? One possibility is Torah, or one possibility is ava and yira. So the menorah is one of those two. It's a ruchnistic thing. It's light. It's oir. Oir means it's meir the gashmi. So for sure, it's either the midas or it's the moichin. Okay. The man, the Amar Tzafan V'Darum Manachas, the one who says it's Tzafan V'Darum. Azoi, the one who says they're in this orientation. Hainu Shatoif is Likar Avodas Hamayach V'Seichol Torah. He thinks, you want to know what the menorah is? Let's put the shulchan aside. This menorah is Torah. That's what it is. No matter what level of Torah learning, Remember we said before, the experience is the same. Hadu Torah's Havaya. It's the Torah. The Emes Havaya Lo'ilam. The Havaya comes down into Welt. And Emes is referring to Torah. Ein Emes ala Torah, which means that the truth of Torah's Hashem is what you're experiencing. Ad Amra Azeh, we just said, Mala Halam B'Shasman Torah Be'ema Afkan. No matter who it is, me, Yeshaya, Loimet Torah's Be'ema, it's all the same experience. Though you're learning one topic, I'm learning another topic, you have a deep comprehension, I have a shallow comprehension, it doesn't matter. We're all doing the same thing. If the Menorah is representing Torah, in which we're all doing the same thing, and all experiencing the same thing, that's why the Menorah is this orientation and not this orientation. Imagine if the Menorah is like this. Then you have different levels of holiness along this line. The closer you get to the Kodesh HaKadosh, remember the Aron with the luchos is over here. This is the holier part of the Menorah. Remember there's 7 candles. This is holy. Less. But if it's Torah, what less? What less? It's all one experience. It's all Matan Torah. It's all experiencing Malahalon. That's all it is. So don't tell me, and it's all one level. So there's no chiluk in Madregas B'chal. All equidistant to the Luchas, all equidistant to the Aron. That represents one Kedusha. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Vizel Canal. The Bavaydas HaTorah. Although there's different ifanim in learning Torah, it's all about the experience. It's about the experience of Matan Torah. And therefore he says, this Shitta says the Menorah is like this. Who's this Shitta? Who's the one who says this? Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon. What's Elazar ben Shimon? He's an elitist. What's the elitist? He doesn't care about everyone. Remember, this Avodah of Torah, it's the same, but it's only for the same of the people who could do it at Tachlisa. Not everyone can do it. Either you're in or you're out. Some people could do it. Many people can't do it at Taklisa, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care. If you want a place in his Heichel, sorry, you need to be a person of Torah. Otherwise, you don't belong in his Beis Hamikdash. That's Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon's perspective. What about the Aron? You have the Aron. Aron has the luchas. It's Zikr Torah. So the Rebbe learns as follows. So what's the difference then between the Aron and the Menorah? We could suggest that the Aron is in the Kodesh HaKadosh, that's Teras and Umnasan. And this is a little less than Teras and Umnasan. You're still doing Torah at Tachlisa, but it's not in a way where you're learning 24 hours a day. It's only 18 hours a day. So one is inside and one is outside. Another option is that there, inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, is Bebittel Legamri. It's mighty, and here the Rebbe says a Geschmack of art. What does it mean, Torah Bittul B'Gamri? Shematzinu Rabbi Elazar Agadol Shlayam Ardavar Shlayshama B'Piraba Me'olam V'nei Teifes Makim B'Einei Asmei Klal. One of the milas of Rabbi Elazar, the famous Tana Rabbi Elazar, is that everyone has different skills. Some people have listening skills, memory skills, repeating skills, analysis. They're able to make an idea grow and apply. What was Rabbi Elazar's skill? He says he never said anything he didn't hear from his teachers. He only said what he heard. So what does that show? It shows on a very high level of bittul. On the one hand, he's using a seichel, but on the other hand, he's not creating new ideas. He's not applying it to new concepts. He's only saying what he taught. That shows on a medidika bittul. So Rebbe Elazar ben Shimon would say, within elitist Torah, there's 2 matzavim. There's a matzav of Sinai, where you're just memorizing and you're mamish bittul to the earlier tradition. That belongs in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And then outside the curtain, a lower madrega, but still Torah, and elitist Torah, is the people who make a pilpulim. And then he goes, why is inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim bittul? Why is that? Why should it be bittul? It says, because look, because we're taught that the Aron also didn't take up space. The Gemara says that if you do the math, you could, whatever size it was, the room before the Aron was put in, you could still measure in the room after the Aron was put in, even without measuring the space of the Aron. So you see the Aron somehow. What's that? I'm here, but I don't take up any place. Good. That's bittul. So therefore, it represents that higher level of bittul. So either it's Torah Masay, or it's limud Torah and ofen of intense bittul, and that's the solution to the problem of how could the Menorah be Torah. If the Aron is Torah, the answer is 2 madregas in Torah. Okay. Medea Sheinis, number 18. The second shita is, this is Rebbi shita, sheikir Reshimas Hamenorah, who alavodas haragesh v'alev. The way I would like to say, not that the Rebbe used these words, the Rebbe would say, Chas v'shalom. Chas v'shalom. You know what the implication is if you make the menorah like this? That means Roiv, Minyan, Ubinyan, Am Yisrael don't have real estate inside the Heichel. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. They need a representative inside the Heichel too. And therefore, it's not true. The menorah doesn't, Ruchnistik Avodah, serving God, holiness, and not B'chol Derchecha De'ehu, holiness at L'Shem Shemayim. That's a shulchan. Holy holiness. But holy holiness that's attainable for every single person, which is the emotional connection to God. Here, you have 7 levels. And there's Zula Maila Mizu. And here, one level is higher than the other, as we demonstrated before. You can have intense humility, and you can have regular humility. Afshav kama pratim bahem, Zula Maila Mizu. Afshav kama pratim bahem. Okay, one more time. Shabachol Yeshua says, "I am adreges Zula Maila Mizu." Af, and also Shakama pratim bahem. There's many different details. As we said about humility, that it's greater, but Moshe and Aaron had a greater level of anova than Avram did. So too every midah. You have chesed one level, and you have chesed less intense level. So this all depends on the wake up of the soul. We said before, what tchum your emotional connection depends on it. It's also what intensity of an emotional connection to God you're going to have depends on the makeup of the DNA of your soul, and that's what makes the avodah different.
From a design point of view, also when you come in, when it's turned that way, it's more accommodating to the person on his level. As opposed to the other way, the person has to come in and
encounter all 7. You're saying? Because here, it's overwhelming because you see all 7.
It's accommodating the person entering rather than the other way, just to come in kind of like.
I hear you. Interesting. The menorah is going east to west, which is like this. Rebbe has his menorah like this. And because Rebbe says there are differences. We're not in the ballpark, we're not Torah, we're not experiencing Mount Torah with this. It's emotional connections. And one person has a higher type of thing, and a lower, more intense, less intense, and so the Befedish are differences. And this is his menorah, and this is why his menorah is in this way. And now the Rebbe ties it all together. The Rebbe in 19 was a Nasi v'Yisrael. V'dag l'chol tzarcheim. He cares about all of the people and all their needs. That's why his menorah is this way. She holds emotions to be the most important item that belongs in the Heichal. Relevant to everyone. He's from the few. He's from the elite, the special holy souls that are so different from everyone. So Daita b'menorah, he holds that what is the menorah? What is Avodah Ruchnis? Inyan is Eisek HaTorah, and therefore Tzafain v'Darim, it is Munacha. Okay.
It doesn't mention the fact that it has 7 branches, representing like 7 mitzvahs?
Yeah, he does. Oh, you're saying Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon?
No.
Rebbe. Yeah, he does. Rebbe does. That we had that in. That's the 7, the concept of 7 that was that he referenced on the top over here. Yeah, but he didn't say clear. So he has. There's so much more here. Rebbe then goes and explains Ba'arichis. Why 7? The middle branch, the 3. Which one did you light first? The wicks, which way they were facing. And all of these, within these 2 shittas, there are multiple shittas that explains all this in Avodas Hashem. It's fascinating, but you look, it's a lot of material. You have to work through it slowly. That's why I selected one chelek from this, but there's a lot more there. I put a few more things here, and I'll summarize some of these points, and then we'll conclude. B'negei the Shulchan. How would Rebbe understand the Shulchan? We said before, it's actually beautiful. A regular Jew will feel very comfortable in the Heichal. He looks, he sees the Shulchan, that's him, that's his life. He has a job, he works 9 to 5, he eats 3 meals a day, he looks at the Shulchan, he says, oh, this could be L'Shem Hashem. If I do it in the right way, this could. Then he looks and he says, what about my spiritual life? He looks at the Menorah and he sees, that's me. He feels very, very comfortable, which is exactly what Rebbe wants, he should feel comfortable in the Heichal. Okay. What about Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon? You have to remember, Elazar ben Shimon, he's an elitist. So we just explained the menorah, that the menorah is what? It's all Torah. It's all one experience of Mount Torah, and it's not for everyone. Okay, what's the Shulchan? The Shulchan is eating hamburgers. The L'Shem Shemayim, it's tasmish. So obviously, it's on another level. And remember, his Shulchan is also this way. Why? Why is his shulchan this way? The Rebbe explains that, remember that Gemara we had before? What's their model? How's a Yid going to have parnasa? You're going to learn so much Torah that your mamish oisin is saying shomakim, so automatically the Eibusher is going to create miracles and manna will fly from heaven, basically. Oh, so you don't have a separate avodah of Gashmias. You don't have a unique avodah of Gashmias. Your Gashmias is a din and a chelek and a part and flows out of what? Out of the Aron. So it has to mirror the Aron. The Aron's in that direction. This is going to be in that direction. It's not a unique avodah. Now come back to Rebbe. Rebbe says, no. Yeah, that's no one goes in there. That's the Kohen Gadol. No one goes in there. You're eating a sandwich and it could be done l'shem shemayim. Calm down. Leave it as a thing b'fnei atzmo. I don't want it in the same orientation as the Aron. Al daras the menorahs. That's another nekuda. That's in number 20. That comes out there. I'll conclude with one final point here. The one final point is, I was wondering why the Rebbe doesn't bring another Gemara about Elazar ben Shimon. The famous Maisa that actually fits in beautiful. Why? Because he says, he meets the person, says, Kama Mechur, Adam says, Gemara in Tainus, says how ugly you are. And it's a very famous Pirush of the Toldos Yaakov Yosef, the Talmud of Baal Shem Tov, on this Gemara. And here that's what you have in number 24. I'll just summarize it briefly. He says, the Gemara describes he was coming from Beis Rabbi, he was coming from his teacher. So he was a little busy learning Torah. And he says how ugly you are. Then he comes to the city, and the people say, forgive him. He said, I don't want to forgive him. He said, I'm ugly. He said, finally he forgives. He says, well, vad shalo yir rogel lasis came. So unfortunately, so every Tuesday is okay? You go over to someone on Tuesday and say he's ugly, that's okay? What does he mean? Vad shalo yir rogel lasis came. Marsha asks this question. The Rebbe has the sikha on this question. The Shalai says, well, vayera. What's going on over here? It sounds like Mitzvah. So the Torah says, I'm waiting to Pshat. He says, here you have a Yid. And he says, he connects it to the Reshimas Hamenorah story. He went into the cave. It's another cave story. He went into the cave, and they gelernt Torah mit sein Rav, and he felt all proud, and he felt all good, and he came out and he saw a Yid. This Yid wasn't physically ugly, that wasn't what was happening, but he was ugly, he wasn't a Torah person. And he said, how ugly you are. All the people in your place also so ugly, meaning do you live in an environment where everyone is such terrible people? Fine. He didn't know, the Lashon that told us is, he didn't know B'chol Dechachade'ev. He didn't know that there's a connection, that everyone has a connection. What Rebbe is saying is that the emotional connection, everyone in their way, everyone could have a connection. He didn't know that. He thought the only way is through Titus. He said, Mechur. He said, you're a Reika. He said, you're empty. Bazoi, he says, now you can understand why the guy said, Shaloye Rogel Asisken, listen to the radical thing. Loye Rogel Asisken, to immerse yourself in Torah to such a degree. You got to stay with the people. Mizman Lizman, you could throw yourself into a koilel. Mizman Rogel Asisken is not to abuse people. Vachaloye Rogel Asisken, to put himself into a cave environment and in a cave mentality in where he separates himself from the Amcha. He doesn't talk to them, he doesn't know them, and so therefore he forgets that they have a different derech and avodas Hashem. No, you would have been is talk to them, bring with a pashti. Mamish, the Talmud is talking his time. You see, it's commentary, but it's also contemporary social stuff going on there as well, in terms of this man of the Baal Shem Tov. Hang out, and the Gemara there says that a person shouldn't be rach, don't be kosher ke'eres, but rach ke'kone. The Gemara there connects it with that story. He says, what's the connection? It says like this: kosher ke'eres, but pashas just means when you're very rigid, you're going to break. If you're flexible, you're a pliable personality, then you get along with people, you figure it out. He says a different shot. Kosher ke'eres means it's one way, like a eres, stock. One way, this is the only way to connect to Eibishter. He says, if you're a reed in the wind, it's like this, and you're like this, and you're like this, you're like this. The 7 Kanei Hamenorah, all 7 of these are there. Okay, so Mamish fits into this paradigm, into Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon. But all good stories, sometimes they don't have a happy ending. The Gemara says Elazar ben Shimon, our Gemara, but all of there's the opposite of Nassim says it's Reb Shimon ben Elazar, and who's a completely different person. And all of the manuscripts for the Bamberg Shas, every single one and every printing, all have it that way. It looks like it's a Tosafos, and maybe that's why it's not part of it. Yeah. Has Elazar ben Shimon. Has Elazar ben Shimon. Ours has Elazar ben Shimon, which would have fit with the 2 models that we're talking about.
Right, okay.
Right? Reb Shimon is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Elazar ben Reb Shimon. No, there's a different Tana. Shimon ben Elazar, completely different person. Okay, but it still fits. The Vart, the attitude is completely relevant to what the Rebbe is saying. So this is a small taste of this Reshimas Hamenorah. And if you have the chance, flip, especially to the end, and you see how the Rebbe does this for many of the details, including the one that I botched before. All right, a good chodesh.